You're scrolling through Zillow on a Saturday morning, coffee in hand, maybe your partner next to you, and you're doing that thing we all do. You type in your budget, hit search, and wait. And then it hits you. Not excitement, not hope, something closer to confusion, maybe a little nausea, because what you're seeing doesn't make sense. You make $100,000 a year. You did everything right. You got the degree, you climbed the ladder, you hit that six-figure number that was supposed to mean something. And yet, you're looking at houses that look like they haven't been updated since 1987. You're looking at neighborhoods you've never heard of. You're looking at square footage that wouldn't fit your current apartment furniture. And you're asking yourself the same question I asked myself not too long ago. What the hell happened? Here's what most people will tell you. They'll say you need to save more, cut the lattes, cancel Netflix, maybe get a side hustle, work harder, be more disciplined. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. That advice is not just wrong. It's insulting. Because the math doesn't work. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Not with theories, not with opinions, with numbers, real numbers, the kind nobody wants to talk about because it makes everyone uncomfortable. Now let me be clear before we go any further. Nothing I say here is financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy, sell, or do anything specific with your money. What I am doing is giving you a brutally honest look at what's actually happening in the housing market and why your six-figure salary feels like it's worth half of what it should be. My name is Blake, and if you've ever felt like the American dream got a little too expensive while you weren't looking, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why $100,000 doesn't buy what it used to, who's responsible for it, and what you can actually do about it. And if that sounds like something worth knowing, take a second and subscribe. Because this channel is built for people who are tired of being told to just work harder when the system itself is broken. We talk about money the way it actually works, not the way they want you to think it works. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with the cold math. Because this is where everything falls apart. You make $100,000 a year. Sounds great, right? That's the dream number. That's the I made it number. Except you don't actually make $100,000. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, you're looking at roughly $75,000 in your pocket. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less depending on where you live. But let's call it 75. That's about $6,250 a month. Real money. Money you can actually spend. Now, there's this thing called the 28-36 rule. It's what banks use to figure out how much house you can afford. The idea is simple. Your housing costs shouldn't be more than 28% of your gross income, and your total debt shouldn't be more than 36%. So 28% of your gross monthly income, that's about $2,300. That's your ceiling. That's the maximum the bank thinks you should spend on a mortgage payment. Now here's where it gets ugly. With interest rates sitting around 6.5% to 7% in 2026, that $2,300 a month gets you a house worth roughly $280,000 to $320,000. That's it. That's your budget. That's what $100,000 a year actually buys. And the median home price in America right now? It's pushing $430,000. Some markets it's way higher, some it's a little lower. But the national median, $430,000. You're $100,000 short, minimum, just to buy an average home. Let that sink in for a second. You're not trying to buy a mansion. You're not looking for a beach house or a penthouse. You're trying to buy a normal house, the kind your parents probably bought in their 20s, the kind that used to be the baseline of middle-class life. And you can't afford it. It's like showing up to a restaurant with $50 in your pocket and finding out the cheapest thing on the menu costs $75. You can sit down, you can look at the menu, but you're not eating. Now let's take a trip back in time, because I think this is where the real anger starts. In 1990, if you made $100,000 a year, you were in the top 5% of earners in the entire country. The median home price? $79,000? That's it. You could buy a house for less than 1 year's salary. You could pay cash if you wanted to. In 2000, $100,000 still put you in the top 8%. Median home price was around $119. Still very doable. Still reasonable. By 2010, things started shifting. $100K was now top 12%, and the median home had jumped to $173. By 2020, top 18%. Median home price, $296, almost $300,000. And now, in 2026, $100,000 a year puts you in the top 25% of earners. Sounds good until you realize the median home is over $430,000. That's more than 4 times your annual salary. Your grandfather? He bought a house, a car, raised 4 kids, and took vacations on a factory salary. No college degree, no 6 figures, just a regular job. You went to college, you got the degree, you climbed the corporate ladder, you hit 6 figures, and you can't afford a 2-bedroom condo in any major city. This isn't about avocado toast. This isn't about financial discipline. The math changed, the rules changed, and nobody told you. Here's an analogy that might help. Imagine a pizza cost $10 in 2000. Reasonable, right? Now imagine that same pizza costs $45 today. But your salary only doubled. You're not eating worse because you're bad with money. You're eating worse because the price of pizza went insane while your paycheck barely moved. That's housing in America right now. Now let's talk geography, because where you live changes everything. If you make $100,000 and you live in San Francisco, I'm sorry to say this, but you're basically homeless with a salary. The median home there is over $1.3 million. To afford that, you'd need to make around $350,000 a year. You're not even close. New York City, Manhattan specifically, over $1 million. Los Angeles, $950. San Jose, $1.4 million. Boston, $750. These aren't luxury markets. These are where the jobs are. These are where companies are hiring. These are where a $100,000 salary actually exists. So let's look at the next tier down. The cities that are supposed to be more affordable. Austin, $550. Denver, $580. Seattle, $780. Miami, $520. Still out of reach. Still squeezing you. Still making you choose between a decent home and a decent life. Okay, what about the markets where $100K might actually work? Phoenix, $420. Dallas, $380. Atlanta, $370. Charlotte, $350. These are doable, technically, but you're still stretching. You're still at the edge of what's considered financially healthy. And then there's the truly affordable places. Detroit, $220. Cleveland, $180. Memphis, $200. But here's the catch. The reason these cities are cheap is because the jobs aren't there. The industries aren't there. The growth isn't there. Houses are cheap because nobody's buying them, because nobody can afford to live there and make $100,000 at the same time. So the market gives you 2 options. Live where the jobs are and never own a home, or own a home where the jobs aren't. Pick your struggle. But wait, it gets worse. Because the sticker price on a house, that's not what you're actually paying. Let's say you find a house for $350. You stretch your budget. You make it work. Here's what your monthly payment actually looks like. Mortgage, $2,200. Property tax, $350 a month, depending on the state. Homeowners insurance, $150. HOA, if there is one, could be $200 to $400. Maintenance. The rule of thumb is 1% of your home's value per year. That's another $290 a month. And if you don't have 20% down, you're paying PMI, another $150. Add it all up. You're looking at $3,300 to $3,500 a month. Real cost, not the number they show you on Zillow, the actual number that comes out of your bank account. That's over half your take-home pay. For a house that's already below the national median, the healthy number? 28% of your income. You're at 53, 55, maybe higher. That's called being house poor. That's when you own a house but you can't afford to live in it. No vacations, no investments, no cushion. Just mortgage payments and anxiety. Buying a house in 2026 is like buying a car where the insurance costs more than the payment. The price tag is a lie. The real cost is hidden. And by the time you figure it out, you're already locked in. So how did we get here? Who broke this thing? Let's start with the Federal Reserve. For over a decade, interest rates were basically zero. That sounds good for borrowers, right? Cheap money, easy loans. But here's what actually happened. When money is cheap, asset prices explode. Stocks, crypto, and especially real estate. People who already owned homes watched their values double, triple, quadruple. People who didn't own homes, they got left behind. The Fed also did something called quantitative easing. They bought mortgage-backed securities by the trillions. This pumped money directly into the housing market. Prices went up. Regular buyers got priced out, and the wealth gap got wider. Next up, institutional investors, BlackRock, Invitation Homes, huge corporations with billions of dollars started buying entire neighborhoods, not one house at a time, whole streets, whole zip codes. Between 2021 and 2023, nearly 30% of homes sold in America were bought by investors, not families, not first-time buyers, investment funds looking for rental income. They turned ownership into a subscription service. You don't buy anymore, you rent, forever, from a corporation that owns your neighborhood. And then there's zoning laws, NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Cities across America have made it nearly impossible to build new housing, especially dense housing, apartments, townhomes, anything that would actually increase supply and bring prices down. Why? Because the people who already own homes don't want prices to drop. They vote. They show up to city council meetings. They block every new development. They protect their property values at your expense. And finally, the generational ladder pull. Boomers bought homes for 3 times their annual income. That was normal. That was expected. That was the deal. Millennials and Gen Z are now being asked to pay 5 to 6 times their annual income for the same house, in the same neighborhood, sometimes worse. And then they get told they're lazy. They get told they don't work hard enough. They get told to skip Starbucks. If wages had kept up with productivity since 1970, the average salary in America would be $92,000, not $56,000. If housing prices had followed normal inflation, the median home would cost $177,000, not $430,000. You're getting squeezed on both ends. Your income is too low, and the prices are too high. And it's not an accident. It's a system. Now here's the part where I get to call out the garbage advice you've probably heard 100 times. Just save more for a down payment. Okay, 20% of a $400,000 house is $80,000. The average American saves about $5,000 a year. That's 16 years of saving. And while you're saving, prices are going up 6 to 7% annually. You're running on a treadmill that speeds up every year. Just move to a cheaper city. Sure, except the jobs that pay $100,000 don't exist in cheap cities. Remote work is dying. Companies are forcing people back to the office, and cheap cities are cheap for a reason. Just buy a fixer-upper. Renovation costs are up 40% since 2020. Contractors are booked for months. That $250 fixer plus $100K in repairs equals a $350 house with twice the stress. Just house hack. Rent out rooms. Get roommates. Okay. So you worked your entire adult life, hit 6 figures, and your reward is living with strangers at 35? That's the dream now? Just wait for the crash. Crashes don't help you. When prices drop, credit tightens. Banks stop lending. Interest rates spike. In 2008, houses got cheaper, but nobody could get a mortgage. Waiting for a crash is like hoping for a shipwreck so you can grab some driftwood. None of this advice is real. It's noise. It's designed to make you feel like the problem is you. It's not. So what actually works? First, geographic arbitrage, but smart. Not just moving to the middle of nowhere. Look at Tier 2 cities with job growth: Raleigh, Salt Lake City, Tampa, places where the economy is expanding and prices haven't fully caught up yet. If you can keep remote work, use it strategically. Lock in a high-salary job and live somewhere your money stretches further. Second, increase your income. This matters more than cutting expenses. The difference between $100K and $150K is night and day in terms of what you can afford. Side income, skill stacking, career moves. You're not going to budget your way into a house. You need to earn your way there. Third, time your purchase. Don't buy in a frenzy. Don't FOMO into a bidding war. Wait for buyer's markets. Negotiate. And remember this phrase: date the rate, marry the house. You can refinance later when rates drop, but you can't renegotiate the price after you've bought. Fourth, redefine what you're looking for. Your grandparents didn't buy a 3,000 square foot McMansion at 28. They bought a small house and built up over time. A townhouse is still a home. 1,500 square feet is enough. Suburbs are okay. Adjust your expectations to match reality, not Instagram. And fifth, consider not buying at all. In some markets, renting and investing the difference wins mathematically. Run the numbers honestly. Ownership is emotional. It feels like progress. But it's not always the best financial move. Sometimes the smartest thing is to wait, build capital, and strike when the conditions are right. Here's the truth. $100,000 should be enough. The fact that it isn't is a systemic failure, not a personal one. But complaining doesn't pay the mortgage. Understanding the game does. You now know more about why housing is broken than most people ever will. You know the math, you know the history, you know who's responsible, and you know what actually works versus what's just noise. The American dream still exists. It just has an asterisk now. And the only way to navigate it is to see clearly, plan carefully, and refuse to play by the old rules that no longer apply. I'm Blake. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.